I just thought I might show people my current generation of ultra dwarfing nectarines. These are brachytic dwarves. That means that they've got a genetic defect that actually makes them bunch up really tightly on all of their node spacings. These are both 2-year-old seedlings. The first one over here, it hasn't flowered either last year or it looks like this year either. The second one, the one closest, this one here, it's actually covered in flowers, and it flowered last year as well. I was unable to taste the fruit as it failed to actually take any pollen that I presented it with. These are hybrids between the White Opal Peach, which is a very good white-fleshed clingstone peach, and the Sunset Nectarine, which is part of the Sunset series of peaches and nectarines. The Sunset series is marked by these really dark red flowers. They're also they're clingstone peach / nectarines. When they're fully ripe, they are extremely sweet. However, when they're still unripe, they can be very bland and tasteless. They don't have too much else that makes them special, other than that they are perfectly serviceable peaches and nectarines that have very beautiful foliage, and this really, really interesting brachytic dwarfing, also called super dwarfing nature. The other thing that's to me very important in that living in Australia and living specifically in Queensland, they are very low chill. So this is only being filmed in July, and these have woken up. As you can see, they're now starting to really fully wake up, and it's only early July. So by the end of winter, they will have already completely woken up, and they've only experienced maybe 200 to 300 chill hours, but that's punctuated by up to 25-degree days during the day, and then very cold nights. The next stage of this is that I'm looking to, for as many of these as I can, start to cross them outside of their original breeding line. So these are all Prunus persicas, meaning that they're peaches / nectarines. The only difference between a peach and a nectarine is the fuzz gene. That's basically the only difference, the fur on the outside. Genetically they are identical, other than that one change. But I'm looking to try and get these guys crossed over, likely with, I'll try plums first, because plums are known to be very easy to hybridize with the others. The plum seems to have a lot of compatibility with a lot of other of the Prunus species. So likely what I'll try and do is cross this with either a plum or a plum hybrid, and if everything goes well, I'm going to try crossing it with this one here. This is just called an 8-1 cherry plum. Information is scarce on the ground about exactly what this is. My guess, looking at the way that it forms its flower buds and the shape and colour of the bark, along with the way that the bark then matures on the stem, is that this is not a cherry plum hybrid, but rather just a small plum. It continues to carry that very low chill. As you can see, this is flowering and waking up. It's maybe a little bit ahead in terms of flowering time, but is a little bit behind in terms of foliage compared to the sunset. I only got to taste one of these last year, but it was very, very sweet, extremely sweet. When fully ripe, it was like eating plum jam. That's how sweet it was. Later down the track, and perhaps I can save some pollen and try it directly, I'd like to try and hybridize with this guy here. This is cotton candy. That's a hybrid between a it's what they call an F2 hybrid. So this is first a hybrid between plum and apricot, and now it's a second generation hybrid between the offspring of that first cross and another apricot. So unlike a lot of the F1 crosses, this does not resemble the plum as heavily. As you can see, its bark is much further along the scale towards apricot. It's got these dual nodes, which are, in my observation, more common with plums, but it's got them on these very, very even spaced nodules, ending with a flower bud, which is not common on plums. As we can see over here, actually this is a bad example, but the plums typically space differently, ending in, yeah, those look like leaf buds, single buds just for pushing out leaves. My original goals were to be able to try and push straight into cherry hybrid, getting my little Sunset series derivatives into commingled with some cherry genetics. And even though theoretically that should be possible, cherries, Prunus avium, and peaches / nectarines, Prunus persica, do have the same base pairing, which usually means that it is more likely, not guaranteed, but more likely. So far, I haven't found any commercial varieties that have managed to do this, including anything I've read from the publications that Zyga has put out, Zyga Genetics, who are kind of at the forefront of pushing these interesting hybrids. So I'm not too sure if that's a thing that can actually work out, but if my F2 hybrid actually takes on the cotton candy, then I'd be more interested in sort of pushing in, or further again, I do have some plum crossed with cherry. This is Little Chum here. As you can see, like it's got that plum style twin pairings, but you know, it doesn't look quite the same as the others. Like this is an F1 apricot plum hybrid, and this is just the Mariana rootstock, so it's fairly compatible with plums and plum hybrids, but has low compatibility with non-hybrids. So with this guy, this Little Chum, there's probably a better chance that the genetics here would be cross-compatible back into other plum hybrids. So if I was able to successfully get my Sunset series hybridized with either this plum here, this 8-1, or the apricot cotton candy hybrid further back there, then I'd try for an F3 hybrid across Little Chum. Little Chum is maybe not the best stone fruit, but it is a very good stone fruit even still. Is it better than most cherries? Probably not. Is it better than a lot of plums? Probably not. But the fact that it acts as a bridge means that in theory I'd be able to do things like graft cherry onto the little chum. In my experience, it has been significantly more compatible with cherries than most just plum rootstocks in general. It's also compatible already, seemingly, with peaches. I've grafted it to peach trees in the past, and it has stayed compatible. There's been no mismatching of the trunk, either at the scion point or the branch point, the rootstock point. It has stayed consistent and grown quite well. So it seems to be that it's already reasonably compatible, which would, in theory, mean that I'd be able to hybridize across it much more readily. It's not a guarantee, but a rule of thumb does seem to be that if you can graft them successfully, there is a higher chance that they can share pollen, assuming that they're within the same overall genus. Here's another Mariana rootstock that I've put Amber Jewel. That's another aprium. It's an apricot crossed with a plum, so rather than a plum crossed with an apricot, it's an apricot crossed with a plum. I've just put a few little scions on here, so just to try out different things, the other plum hybrids, to try them on these rootstocks, just to see if they are compatible. This guy here, that's just a regular sun gold plum, just a normal plum. I was just given a scion of that, so I've decided to give it a bit of a go. It grows fairly well. As you can see, it's healed up, ugly but well. Definitely not my best work. And further down, I've got another brachytic dwarfing. This time it's specifically a peach. I didn't actually get anything out of this last year, but it is flowering heavily. This one is the Trixie Pixie, which is a dwarf freestone peach. This is an F2, so it's a little more genetically complex than the Sunset series, but overall is still just a good, decent peach. There's very little special about it other than that it has this dwarfing nature, but I wanted to make sure I did have some peach genes, some specifically peach genes, without having to cross them in to be able to get peaches back out of my Sunset series Nectarine crosses. This is the mother plant. This whole section is the Sunset Nectarine, sorry. As you can see, it's going to flower very heavily this year. It's now several years old, and again, is a fine nectarine, but unremarkable really, other than its low chill and dwarfing nature. As you can see, I've managed to get my first good seedlings a lower chill. You can kind of just see it's starting to leaf out. However, as you saw before, the F2s, the F1, sorry, the White Opal crossed with the Sunset Nectarines, they're actually maybe even 100 chill units earlier, and I'd put that down to the White Opal 50 to maximum 200 chill hours peach. I've put a lot of different scions on this year. So this here is from last year. This is a Bebco apricot, just testing to see how well the Bebco apricot itself grafts, which it did take a while, but it's healing up reasonably nicely now. As you can see, maybe some mismatch in scions, so I don't expect that this will last more than a few years, but it is a good test. I've also put an angel peach graft, as well as an Indian peach graft. Now, the Indian peach is a freestone, blood-fleshed peach. It has a very strong flavour. A lot of people like it, but it's obviously not for everybody. But it is highly resistant, not immune, but highly resistant to the only major disease that I've encountered with peaches and nectarines, which is peach leaf curl. It's something that you can control, but it's not something usually that you can control without some damage to the parent. So you can kind of see, like, these should have already started opening all the way up, but the treatment sprays kind of knock the tree's energy around a little bit and takes a little bit longer. The other thing that's grafted on here, which you can sort of see coming out, this is where the join is, where the graft is. I'm pretty happy with the way that grafted up. This is an unknown nectarine that is actually very flavorful. It takes a little while. It's not an early nectarine. It's sort of, in our neck of the woods, it's more like a January nectarine rather than a December nectarine. It flowers very, very well. It seems to be very compatible with many things. So I've actually put my White Opal Peach on, which, as you can see, is waking up about as much as the rest of the tree, but maybe a little bit further along. I've also grafted another White Opal here. This here was where I was practicing doing chip bud grafting. Yeah, so that's what I've got here. The other one that I'd like to show is from the same genetic stock as the first two. So, as you can see, it's fully waking up. Lots of great growth. This is still a sunset crossed White Opal Peach. However, as you can see, it did not carry the brachytic gene through. It's still got that beautiful bronze colour to its leaves. The leaves are, in my experience, shorter in total length and a little narrower than either parent, unlike the first two, who have significantly longer leaves than the parent. This is one that I'm really hoping to be able to get some of that Indian peach genes through, to be able to make sure that this has the resistance to peach leaf curl. Okay, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.